Okay, so let's do our usual test. Of course, I got these backwards. I want this down here and this up here. Let's do that again. Oh, F. There we go. That's what I want to see. Okay. All right, so today we're going to be discussing, let's see, what are we discussing? Object-oriented programming. All right. Things that are starting to get a bit more challenging, as you've probably noticed. We were covering last week we covered functions. I think we covered dictionaries and lists, that type of stuff. Sets too, I believe. So today we're going to be working with OOP, which stands for Object-Oriented Programming. And what this means is this is software that's using objects, or you could think of them as bundles of data or attributes and function methods. So it's a bundle of data, attributes, and function methods. Why do we do this, even though it's going to be more challenging than using functions, is that we want reusability of code. It's easier to design by modeling real-world objects, easier to test, debug, and maintenance. We also can do some data hiding and abstraction for security. So we're going to be thinking about 3 real-world objects. We're going to keep it really simple. We're going to think about cars and students and I think dogs. And so, well, let's see. The first thing we want to do is we're going to take a look at what it means, what a dog object might have as properties and procedures. So we have a dog, and some of the attributes might be the data, name, age, and breed. And some of the methods you might think of as behaviors, such as bark and eat and sleep. All right, so let's define a class first of all. I'm going to get rid of this up here. So we're going to have a class, and we're going to call it dog. Surprise. That's how we create a class. We have to prefix it with the reserved keyword of class. Oop, we got somebody waiting to get in. And the first thing I'm going to do is just keep this really simple. I'm going to use pass, which just means it's going to just do nothing. Basically, it's just going to go through it and make sure that that this works at this point. So we can do something along these lines, and if you F5 it, and nothing's going to happen. It's just basically you have a class built. That's it. There's nothing there. We're just kind of getting started. Now, what we could do is we could instantiate the object, which means we're going to inherit objects from that class. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's see. So in this simple scenario, we have a class which does nothing. It just passes. And that name of that class is dog. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create an instance of that class. So here we would just describe something that we're going to call the method or the instance of the class. So in this case, I'm going to say my dog, and we're going to assign it. Excuse me. We're going to assign it the dog value, or the dog class. So we're going to have dog. Now you'll notice that dog takes no attributes. It's just an empty method. There's nothing going on there, an empty function. So here we're going to say, okay, print, and then my dog underscore. We have an unexpected indent because I went too far, so let's fix that. Oh, I forgot the colons. Remember, if you see me make a mistake, just call it out. And what are we doing wrong now? Let's see, invalid syntax. So, okay, so here, goodness. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm just tired. So here at this point, we're actually not going to indent this. We're going to keep it right there and run that, and nothing happens. So we're good. Okay. Now we're going to add some attributes to the object. So we have this class dog, and we're going to add some attributes to this thing. So let's do that now. And so I'm going to say my underscore dog dot name, and we're going to assign it Buddy. And then we're going to say, let's see, my dog age equal 3. And then we're going to say, okay, now let's print All right, so what did it do? And let me get rid of this first one here because nothing's going on here. This one right here. Oh, goodness gracious. I just want the hashtag. Okay, so what did we do? We created a class called dog, and we just say pass. And all pass is going to do is whatever values we give it, it's just going to pass them directly through. So nothing really is happening here. We just created a class, and right here on line 4, we create an instance of the class, and then we give the class some attributes. So .name and the age, and then we print out the 2 properties, and then you can see that we have Buddy and 3 down here. So I wonder if I can move this out of the way. I don't think I can. Okay, but anyways, so that's what's going on there. But now we're going to use what's called the instantiate method, and this is when we create a constructor. But let me take a pause real quick. Does everybody understand what I've done so far? And if not, now's the time to ask. You're good? Okay. Everybody else good? We're all good? All right. So that's all I've done. To keep it really simple, we created a class dog. It's not doing anything in that class other than passing the attributes. And we created an instance of the class in line 4. We assigned it some properties, and then we printed out the properties. That's it. We haven't done anything else. But now let's do a little bit more, okay? So now I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to change this pass, and we're going to do some other things here. So now we're going to create what's called a constructor, a constructor method. This is what you're going to see most of the time. So you have to have a def, which is defined, and then we're going to do a double underscore, init, double underscore, and then we're going to add the properties that this thing is going to have. So here we're going to say self. I'll explain that in a minute. And let me do this part real quick. Okay, so now we've created a class dog. We have right here, this part here, this whole thing right here is called a constructor method. So we're constructing the class. Now self means it's referencing itself, and so we're going to use this later on, but you have to, I know it's kind of strange, but in Python we have to say self. So we're not actually going to pass it a parameter of self. It's for its own internal usage. These two, however, are parameters that we will need to pass it, name and age. So here we're saying, okay, in our constructor class, we have self.name, property.name, self.age, the property age, and we're going to assign it whatever is passed to it. So name and age is going to become, name will come down here, and this will be assigned to the self.name. Age will come here, and this will be assigned to self.age. So we construct that those properties. Okay, does it make sense to this point? Yeah, we're all good? Okay. So now let's let's do something with this. Let's see. So I'm going to get rid of this extra stuff here because we're gonna start from scratch. And so now we have this my dog equal dog, but we can't really just do that. We're going to have to give it some information. And so what we can do is we can give it, let's see. Actually, let me keep that old stuff. That actually might come in handy. Let me get rid of this though so it's not as confusing. Okay, and what we're going to do here, let's see. Let's get rid of this also. And say we're going to have a new function and we're going to call it bark. And here we're going to say self. This is going to be a new function. And actually, this needs to be, let me just clean all this up. This is just getting ugly. This needs to be part of the, what do you call it? Part of the function class. So here we have a new thing called bark. And it's going to say, okay, now we're going to say print and self, which is inherited, name, not a comma, dot for property, name, plus, here we'll just add something like, says woof, I guess. Makes sense. Okay, does that look right? Let's see, we create the function, we have the constructor, we're going to pass it a name and an age, and then we have a function in here. So this part here, just this part here is the constructor class. This is a function, so this is what's called a class function. So this is the class, dog. This part here is called the constructor class. And then right here, or the constructor function, I'm sorry. And then here we just have a regular function inside of the class. And now we can try and do something with this. We can say, okay, let's see. Why don't we try to call it and print something output? So let's say we want to print, or not print, we're going to call this class and have it output, let's say, what's a good name for a dog? I don't know. My dog's name is Rufus. So I'll give you a challenge. The class constructor is built, the class function's built. So now write a function that calls the class function and outputs the Rufus says woof. Okay, so let's do it's 1:43. Let's try and do it kind of quick. We'll do 5 minutes. We'll do it at the 10 till mark. So 1:50. All right. So please have copied this down because I'm going to pause the screen on 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. So write the function that's going to call that property. And if you can't do it, that's fine. We're going to go over it, but I want to give you a chance to do this. All right, just let me know when you guys are done. It's about that time. Was anybody able to do it? There is a simple way to do it, and then I wrote another one that's a little more challenging. Not really challenging, just a little bit more interesting. Okay, well, let's get back to share. Okay, so let's start with example 2, because example 2 is really simple. So in example 2, down here on line 26, I say dog 2. You could have named this anything. And dog 2 is going to be assigned the class of dog. And remember, it takes 2 arguments, name and age. So we're going to pass it spot and the value of 4. And then once I created an instance of that dog, the next thing I can do is I can say, okay, now this instance right here, dog 2, has now been created with these 2 values. So this is now, that instance is now here. Now on line 27, I can say, okay, now let's call this class property bark on line 6, and let's see what happens. So now we have a dog2.bark property, and you can see spot says woof. Now up here we have example 1, and here we say, okay, let's do and introduce the dog. So this one's a little bit more, I guess, a little more creative. And so again, we have name and age. We create the dog object, which is name, the dog equal dog name age. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, here we have, remember the F means format, meet, and then of course the curly bracket, and this means that this is going to be the literal value that comes from here. So dog name is going to come down here from this instance to here, whatever's passed, and then age here, so that we can embed it as literal instances, literal values inside of this string. So on line 19, we have dog.bark, calls the barking class, return dog, and done. And so we have here, my dog. We create an instance. So here we're calling the introduced dog class, which is this class here. And we're passing it Rufus and 3. Goes through all of this, and it returns the Rufus says woof. And that's really it. We can do more with this, or excuse me, this is the first line here. Meet Rufus, who is 3 years old, sorry. This one right here. So you can do a lot of cool things. What I want you to get out of this is that we created one class, like it's a template really. Think of it like a recipe for making cookies or something. And then you can use it in many ways. We used it here to do all of this using the same class. And output something like this, meet Rufus who is 3, or you could do something really simple and just say, you know what, just create a simple instance of the class, pass the 2 parameters, and let's call that bark property, that bark function, class function, right here. And so it's just 2 lines of code, it does that. But my point is that we're using the same template in both examples. And you could do a third example and just redo it over and over again, because this right here is just a blueprint, or I would just call it a blueprint of whatever it is you want to do. Okay, how are we doing? Is it making sense or not? Or not? Any questions? All right, so now with what I've shown you, let's do another this one will be a really simple one. Here, let's create a method that takes 2 arguments and adds them together. So basically a calculator that just adds 2 numbers, but we want to do it as a class function. So I'll throw it in the chat here. We're going to create a calculator class. I can just call mine calc. You can type it out if you want to. And what we want it to do is return the values, or excuse me, return the sum. So something really simple. We're going to have a class calculator, and it's going to return the sum of 2 parameters. We could say arguments, I guess. I know I misspelled that, but you know what I mean. So go ahead, and this time let's keep it short. Let's do another 5 minutes. So at 2 o'clock straight up, let's do this again. So please have your screenshots, or I've typed this up because I'm going to erase all of this right now, or delete it, I mean. Okay. Messed that up. Okay. Oh, goodness. I swear. This is my other editor. Let's fix this. Okay, let's see. I'm doing really. I must be tired. I'm doing stupid things now too. Okay, let's see. I need to do. I forgot to create the constructor class. Golly. Okay, now let's get rid of this because that's going to be. And plus dot B. Okay, now let's see what that looks like. So if we. So, okay. Aha. And now we have the add method. Okay, let's try that. There we go. Yeah, if it took you a little bit of time, that's fine. I'm tired myself and messing up left and right. So, okay. So, has anybody completed it? Okay, no issues. All right, all right. Okay, so I'm going to share and we'll go over it. So it should look something like this. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but something like this. So here we have the class calc. You could have named yours whatever. And we have the class constructor. I actually forgot to write this when I was doing mine. And so we have our constructor, _NIT, which just means initialize. And remember, you have to have self, and then A and B. I guess you could do that. And on line 3 and 4, remember you have to have self.A is assigned the value of A, whatever's passed. Self.B is going to be assigned the value of B, whatever's been passed to this argument. And then we have our class function right here. We're going to say, okay, this is our add function. And what is it going to do? It's going to say, take self.A and add it to self.B. And so that right here is the constructor class. Now we create an instance of that class. So we have cal is assigned the value of calc, so the class, and we're passing it two parameters, 2 and 3, or 2 arguments. And then we're going to print out the add right here, the add function. And so now when it prints out, you can see the value is 5. Okay, so now that you have this, first of all, does this make sense? Are there any questions up to this point? Because we're going to expand on this. Are we good? No? Yes? Maybe? Okay. So now what I want you to do is we're going to keep it really simple. Let's do a subtract one now. And then let's do a subtract, a divide, and a multiply. So add 3 more functions and call those functions. All right, so just finish it. Basically, right now we're doing add. So let's do subtract and divide and multiply. And we'll just do 3 more. And let's do, it's 2, 3, so 210. And this part's really easy. I mostly just copy paste and okay. And it doesn't matter whether you subtract A from B or B from A. I don't really care. It's more about the learning how to do this. Okay, and what else did I say? Multiply? I did say multiply. Okay, let's do that one too. All right, I'll give you 5 minutes, another 5, and then we'll talk about it. So this part should have been hopefully really easy. We just cut and paste, and that's pretty much it. Okay, I'm going to resume and explain. Okay, so all I did was I copied this, and I just pasted it 3 times, and then just changed it sub, div, multiply, and of course change the signs. And we still have only one instance of that calc. You could have multiple instances, but in this case there really wasn't a reason to have more than one instance. So we just have the calc, one instance of calc. We're passing it 2 values, 2 arguments, and then we're calling each one of these methods, the add, sub, divide, and multiply. And then of course we get our information down here. And that's really it. As far as the self goes, I put some information in the chat, but basically all it means is the self when you create a class, you have to have self, because self is going to tell the class that everything that it's doing is referencing this class and nothing else. So so you have self here, and then here you have self.a. The self.a is going to be assigned the value of a, whatever the parameter is. So when this parameter a is set to an argument of, let's say, 2, well, 2, in order to work inside of all the class methods and functions, 2 has to be assigned to a value that's internal to the constructor. So here comes 2, 2 goes here, 2 is assigned to self.a and self.b, and if you had another parameter, it'd be self.something else. And then you can access this information by just referencing self. So for example, here we had self, which is going to include everything. And then we're saying exactly which properties of self. Well, which properties? The A property, and in this case, the B property, and then so forth and so forth. But you could have passed it a C value, and we could do something with the C value too. Okay, does that make sense? I know it's a bit of a challenge. And this is as far as I'm going to take it today, because there's other more complex things we need to talk about, such as inheritance. But this is as far as I want to take it, because you need time to let this cook. All right, so opportunity for questions, comments.